first of all, my wife Eleanor and I would like to thank you all for attending our special day, especially you, Eleanor. I'm so glad you come along today. It's been awkward. Yeah. We'd especially like to thank everyone who kindly took a day off work or school to be here today. And also the ones who have travelled from afar, for hours by road or even plane, to join us on our special day. And we very much appreciate this and are glad you were able to make it. Use the mic. Okay, I want to take this opportunity to thank my mum Carol and Eleanor's mum Debbie. They've both been very generous and helpful in organising today. And also, special thanks to Mum for making the lovely cake. With a little help from Leyland and Jasmine. Unfortunately, it's got a little bit warm in the sun today. It's a little collapse, but it's fine. Yeah, it will taste good. Still looks good. It's got a little something for my mum. Thank you. And also for Debbie. Thank you for your help. I also want to say thank you to my dad Nick, and Eleanor's dad Neil, and also Rowley. Again, you have all been very generous and a big help in making this day a special day, so thank you very much. Okay, I also want to say thank you to my brother Adrian for being my best man and always being there for me and guiding me throughout my life. Got a little something for you there as well. We finished. Okay, thank you to the bridesmaids, the Eleanor's sister Laura, and their cousin Kelly. You both look lovely. They both had a little gift earlier. Have you got them? Yeah? Yeah, I got a little gift. I want to also say an extra thanks goes to Laura, who's been a great help and organised a fantastic hen do for Eleanor, which we really enjoyed. Thank you. And on that note, a great stag do, guys. Thank you, had a really good time. I really mean that, seriously. I really enjoyed the whole day. So thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, also thank you to the ushers, one, and also Harry. And also to page boy Leyland. Where is he? There he is. And to Jasmine. Okay. Jasmine. One Harry, we've given you a little gift earlier. I don't know if you want to show them to everyone. What something we got you? Oh yeah, I'm somewhere. What is Harry? Oh, it's the filmer. Got that. And we have a little something for Leyland and Jasmine. Are they going to be brave enough to come up to us? Yeah. And we just want to say a special thank you to someone else here who's been very helpful and generous. Diane, if you want to come up. Appreciate all your help. Thank you. Thank you. Now, is that everyone? Okay. Now, as I'm the sort of person who saves the best till last, I want to say a few words about my beautiful wife, Eleanor. It's me. Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay. Ready, it's the second time now. Okay, the first time we set eyes on each other was when we arranged to go out for dinner on a blind date with another couple. And if anyone's not aware, but Eleanor's family home is the next road down from me, literally about a 2-minute walk away. So we decided we both wanted to have a little drink. So I walked down the road and met Eleanor at her house. And yes, Debbie was there, poking her head up. She's there, poking her head up the door, had a little nose. Then we walked to the bus stop and jumped on a bus to Reading. That could have been a really awkward bus ride. You know, a bit awkward, like, the weather's not too good, it's been raining all day, But fortunately we clicked straight away, which I think is really important when you meet someone. We had a great night. Then 5 weeks later, I had to go off and work in India for a month. Great boyfriend, eh? Gonna leave. But a month later, after an endless phone bill, fortunately Eleanor was still there, waiting for me when I got home. A few years later, during a trip on a hot air balloon, we got engaged. And yes, I had a ring, and it fitted, and she did like it. You did like it, did you, Eleanor? I'd also like to add that the balloon flight was cancelled 3 times before we finally went up in it on the 4th attempt. So that meant I had to wait 6 months to propose to Eleanor. And having asked Neil and Rowley permission to marry Eleanor, I must have wondered if I was going to ever ask her. And now we are here today, almost 5 years later. It's our big day. So, on that note, if everyone wants to raise their glasses, I'm going to struggle to do this. Okay. When I say this, I really do mean this. Eleanor. You're definitely worth the wait, and you are the girl I always dreamed of. You make me so happy and feel so lucky to be with you. So everyone who wants to raise glasses, to Eleanor.
To Eleanor!
Now, it's over to Adrian, my brother. I'm sure embarrassed me, maybe a little bit.
Alright, okay, so if I repeat things Stuart said, then I'm sorry, but hey. Thanks for coming today, and thanks to Stuart and Eleanor, especially for buying me a 3-course dinner. It's been a long time coming, boy. A few gets here and there, but 3-course dinner, that was lovely. Thank you to Harry. That's a surprise, Harry, I never knew you played the guitar, I knew you played football. But well done, Harry, round of applause for Harry. X-Factor, isn't it? Yeah? Thanks to one helping out today. One was off show at my wedding and he done just as good a job today. Well done, one, thank you very much. Thank you to Jasmine and to Leyland. If I was as old as them doing what they did, I know I'd be scared. So thanks guys. Okay, one thing Stuart touched on as well. Lovely bridesmaids sat at the end of the table there. Alright, so let's raise our glasses to the bridesmaids, ladies and gentlemen, please. So today's come round really, really quick for me. My little brother getting married. Seems like, what, last week, last month? We was up the rec with Matt, playing football, young kids, you know. We lived opposite a rec, all day, every day we'd be out there playing football. We grew up in a small village, only a few years between me and my brother and our sister Lisa. So we grew up really close together and we played together all the time. Stuart and I, God, I'm choking up already. Stuart and I, we grew up more than brothers. We were friends and we was good friends. He's always been the one that would do anything for me. I guess he looked up to me, you know, older, better footballer, better looking. I could go on his own list, but in the village, as I said, we lived opposite the rec. We grew up with Matt, our closest friend, right when we was little kids. Matt used to live next to the rec, and every day from about the age of 7 or 8, we used to meet up. We used to play football, cricket, tennis, whatever. Stuart was always the first one that would be running back home, getting the goalkeeper's gloves, getting the tennis rackets, getting the cricket bat. Whatever we wanted to do, he was the one who always went back. You know, made sure we had what we needed to have a good time. Not the dog's play, no. He was the one. He would always go. even when I broke my leg. I remember he was the one that ran back, got our granddad and the ambulance. I remember laying in the snow in the worst pain imaginable, worst pain I've ever had. And Stuart coming back, moaning to me, "You better not be messing around." I've left a glove at home and my hand is freezing cold. It was cold, but I was sat on that snow, you were stood up. So I could tell you loads of stories about Stuart. You know, picking me up late at night when I've been drunk, lending me his IDs or his shoes to get into clubs, helping me move house, you know, just being there for me as a brother. But what I'm trying to say is Stuart as a person, the person he loves the most, he will always be there for them, no matter what. Should have gone with the cards. No matter what, he'll be there for them. And the last 4.5 years, that's not been me, that's been Eleanor. She's a lucky lady. We all know there's a few years between Stuart and Eleanor. Eleanor was at primary school when Stuart was taking his driving test. For the 5th time. It was the 5th, or was it the 6th? Officially the 6th, but hey. But Stuart and Eleanor, you know, age don't matter. They go together so well, they balance each other out. Stuart, I'm not going to embarrass you much more, you know. I won't mention the first time you were drunk, you were sick into a pint glass. Or when we was out on your stag do, you were sick before we got to the car. We had to stop on the way home. And the next morning, dodgy burger apparently? Yeah. I was alright, I think everybody else was alright the next day. I was fine. Stuart, over the years, he's had a few nicknames as well. Stu, Stewpot, Luke. I don't really know where that one come from. Our granddad used to always call him Titch, because he was so little. Eleanor will clarify that later. Only one person I know calls him the next nickname. Gay boy?
Gay boy.
There you go. And even though he's married, Matt, is it about time you change that nickname? No. I've always called him, people might know, I've always called him Boy Wonder. And I guess it's because that, all he's done for me over the years, as I say, he's always looked out for me, looked after me. So, thanks Boy Wonder. And Eleanor, you're a lucky girl, because now he'll do more for you than what he's ever done for me. Look after him, and if he ever tries to grow his rat tail again, stop him, yeah? Because even back in the 80s, a rat tail wasn't a good look. I think it was our gran that used to always say, when Stuart grows up, he'll have a big house, he'll have a nice car, a wife and kids. He's got one out of the 4 now, you know, and I'm sure he'll have one of them on the way soon. So, thanks very much, Stuart, for everything you've done to me. Eleanor, enjoy him as much as I've enjoyed him. So, Stuart and Eleanor, I'll tell you what, let's do this proper. Come on, Mr. and Mrs. Chaplin, let's do it!
When you're ready. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today to witness and celebrate the wedding of Eleanor and Stuart on such a lovely day and beautiful setting. It's a very proud day for me, our mum and her family, and I'm sure Stuart's mum, dad and family are equally as proud. Let us not also forget the people who aren't here today. So would you please raise your glasses to absent friends.
Absent friends.
It's a very emotional day. Even the cake's in tears. Well, it was. All week. It's also an emotional day to see one of your daughters get married. And I'm sure everyone will agree she looks beautiful. A bit different to the picture up from a hen weekend. As do some of the ladies here who are also in the back of the minibus. It's good to see not only she get a good looks from me, she also knows how to enjoy herself. I'm sure that you will all agree with me that the bridesmaids look amazing. I've not always been around for Eleanor, and I may not have shown it, but she has been in my thoughts and heart every day, and she will continue to do so. I'm very proud of her, and I love her very much, as I do Laura. I see today that's not losing a daughter again and a son, even though I had to rescue him from a 7-foot giant and eat him alive outside bar 1 on a stag night when he insisted on having his picture taken next to him. Was that Dan? Stuart, you have all the right requirements to marry Eleanor. You can cook, clean, and most importantly, you do as you're told, which is quite remarkable. And of course, I need someone to cut around the clean carpets from time to time. When I was working in Guernsey a while back, I had a phone call from Stuart asking when I was coming back because he had a business proposition for me. Knowing Stuart like we all do, I had no reason to disbelieve him. Eventually, I came back and we met in a pub in Phil. After asking me how I'd go about stripping and polishing the table we were sat at, I was wondering where this conversation was going. There was a long silence and then he asked the question. Neil, I haven't got a business proposition for you. The real reason I got you here today is to ask for permission to marry Eleanor. I immediately became very emotional. I think the main reason being that I thought this was going to be a business proposition where I was going to make money. Instead, this is now going to cost me money. Stuart is a lovely man. I was extremely happy, and of course I said yes. I thought somebody who burps as loud as often as Eleanor. Stuart, your mum and dad must be as proud of you as we are of Eleanor. You make a lovely couple, and I'm sure it won't be long before there is additions to the family. So that's about it from me. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you both many, many happy years together, as I'm sure we all do. So would you all please be upstanding and raise your glasses to the bride and groom.
I'm working from the latest technology, so if it goes wrong, the battery runs out, I'm done for. I've got. First of all, I've written my normal notes on here. So when Debbie saw how much I've written, her words were, "You have to give other people a chance to speak." Well, I've done that now. And I know there are people coming in for the disco, so I've timed it. It should take about 5 minutes if I read it non-stop without pauses for laughter, comedy timing or inflection. But I'm going to add a little bit of that, so hopefully it'll take a little bit more than 5 minutes. This is the most exciting thing to happen to me since my hole-in-one last week. Did I mention that to anyone? It happened on the golf course and it was hole-in-one, it's lovely. But this is going to be slightly different, and I'd like to start off by just playing something very quickly for you. Hopefully this will work. Tonight, Eleanor Hunt. You thought you were here for a wedding. But you're not. Tonight, Eleanor Hunt, this is your life. When Eleanor was 6 years old, I was booked to entertain at her birthday party. I'm going to work this with my thumb as I'm doing it. I remember her as being a little bit stubborn about helping with the magic show. I realised she was the type of child who would not do things just because you asked her. She had a mind of her own and her own ideas, and a personality that stood out from any other child I'd ever entertained in my life. She was strong-willed, basically. After the party, I was a little perplexed when her mother told me that the payment cheque was not there, and she would have to bring it to my house later that day. I thought, here we go, another customer wants to pay me in kind. However, the cheque was delivered, and I never saw Debbie again. Until 2 months later. I was approached by a lady in a local disco who asked me to dance. I don't usually dance with strangers, but I was single and she looked quite nice. So I thought, what the heck? I didn't realise immediately that she was Eleanor's mum, but it soon became clear that she had been stalking me since the party. And as in the 90s there was no law against it, I couldn't report her. So we started a relationship instead. I remember the first Christmas I went to Debbie's house. I lived up the road, and the girls were opening their presents. I had my present neatly wrapped. It was the Spice Girls' latest album, first album, Every Girl Wanted One. I remember standing and watching for about half an hour as the presents were unwrapped. I think it went something like, unwrap, oh that's nice, thank you, next present. Unwrap, oh that's nice, thank you, next present, etc, for half an hour. My heart sank a little when they opened someone else's present, which was a Spice Girls album, as I realised my big present giving moment was ruined. What I definitely did notice was that although the girls had loads of presents, they never appeared to be spoiled and appreciated everything that they'd been given. I eventually moved in and took the role of stepdad. Excuse me. The early days were quite hard work, and although Laura was easygoing and got on with things, Eleanor was continuing to be, as I'd first noticed, very stubborn and quite cantankerous. She had a little bit of OCD in as far as her sleeves had to be even, her socks had to be right, and if they weren't, she would let you know, with her particularly strong personality. Whilst I was writing this speech, I was realising some of the things she had in common with Stuart. I have to admit the role of stepdad is not an easy role to take on, but I have to say we had a lot of fun along the way. I remember when Eleanor was about 7, having to have a tooth removed under general anaesthetic. I was with Debbie when we went to the clinic, and they put Eleanor put Eleanor to sleep and then took her for the procedure. I have to say that I'd never felt quite as emotional as I did that day. It was great relief when she woke up about 20 minutes later, no worse for the experience, and unaware how me and her mum had been feeling. I think this was the first time that I'd felt the bond between a parent and a child. Eleanor continued to be cautious about the things and people in her life. And then in 1998, her brother Harry was born. She seemed to relish this situation and stopped playing with her dolls and replaced them with a real-life baby. She had no problem in doing all the things that we did. She would change nappies, she would take him for walks, she would feed him, etc. In 1999, we're going through the years one at a time, 14 years to go, so bear with me. We were booked to run the entertainers programme at the Bournemouth International Hotel. We were living in the hotel throughout the whole of August, and lots of families came to stay. Eleanor seemed to really come out of herself. She became 100 times more confident. She would mix with all the newly arrived children. She would show them all around the hotel, was basically in her element. One of Eleanor's bugbears was her maths. She's always struggled with this subject, and despite extra teaching and hours spent at the computer with me, she didn't quite get it. We did worry that this might affect her career prospects. However, when Eleanor decided, with a little guidance, to take a career in childcare, she was first expected by the companies she worked for to attain certain levels in maths. However, because Eleanor was so talented and gifted when it came to looking after children, that her employer at the time, and future employers, have always ignored her lack of maths ability and looked at Eleanor's attributes as a person. Eleanor did not have many relationships when she became an adult, although she had lots of friends of both male and female, but she didn't seem too fussed about getting into serious relationships. Then we heard about the guy who lived up the road, who fancied her. I'm not sure if we were initially told about the age difference, But obviously when we were told, it was a little bit worrying. When we first met Stuart at our house, we were surprised how young he looked and impressed about how easily he chatted with us and appeared to be easygoing and relaxed, just as he was today. The relationship no sooner began when Stuart went off to India for a month, as you've heard earlier. Eleanor spent quite a few hours on the phone to India, and luckily enough I had the idea to use the website that charges 1p a minute to call India. I know Stuart called back from the hotel room and it cost him an absolute fortune. He learned a valuable lesson. We realised that he had his head screwed on and he was a bit of an entrepreneur and a would-be money-saving expert. He certainly convinced me that this time next year, we would all be millionaires. That was 4 years ago and I'm still waiting. Stuart being Stuart, he felt he also had to ask me for permission to marry Eleanor. I'm not sure he offered me a business proposition like Neil, but he did beat around the bush for a while before offering me 3 goats, 2 camels, a rabbit and some old golf balls, which I declined. I explained that I was flattered that he wanted to ask my permission, but Eleanor was old enough and quite capable of making her own decisions. I think I suggested they should leave it for a couple of years to see if they could live together and not want to kill each other. As parents, all you want for your children is to be happy and healthy. And when Eleanor moved out of our home into Stuart's, her hypochondria seemed to be less frequent. We knew she was happy, especially the way she reacted when Stuart proposed to her in the balloon. So here we are, 2 years of organising, planning, coming together almost perfectly. I want to thank Stuart for searching through the internet for bargains and keeping the quality without paying over the top for it. That's the wedding, not Eleanor. I want to thank Debbie for being there for everyone, helping with the hair, the outfits, the wedding dress, for popping back to town to collect lost ties that weren't really lost. And especially thank you for only wearing one of the 3 hats that you actually bought. Thank you to Harry for performing his song, despite being very nervous. Doing a great job. I'd like to thank me for driving the minibus to Brighton for 6.5 hours there and back on a busy Friday. I think Neil got the light end of that one. And I'd also like to thank me for spending 3 hours on this speech before losing it because I forgot to save it properly and I had to rewrite it again. I want to thank Eleanor for looking lovely and not stressing too much today. And finally I want to thank Laura for organising the hen do, recording the quiz, ordering the pirate outfits, booking the minibus, printing the order of ceremony twice, booking and organising the meal for the girls and being there to support Eleanor along the way. I'm sure Laura would always say it was nothing and she looks forward to Eleanor returning the favour one day. Thank you to all my family for their help in making Eleanor and Stuart's special day. Eleanor and Stuart, this is the beginning of your married life. Continue to enjoy every moment and when the time is right for you, we look forward to welcoming any grandchildren. Please raise a glass to my family. Thank you.